Blasberg, who's the chair of Engineering Technologies Department at College of the Canyons. And she's going to be presenting on OER with HyFlex in water systems technology, a student success strategy. And Regina, you've been made a co-host, and so you can share your slides anytime.
Fantastic, thank you. Oh, there we go. All right, I think y'all can see it. At least my side says you can see it. So thank you so much for inviting me to participate in your event today. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about, there it goes. First going to start talking about students, because really that's why we do what we do. Talk to you a little bit about the program, HyFlex, and then how we've integrated OER and our ZTC pathway into all of that. I am totally open if you want to ask questions as I go, or post them in the chat. I'll do my best to track the chat as well. Or if you wait to the end, that's fine too. I'm good either way. So first, let's talk about our students. This slide is from the California State Chancellor's Office, but it gives a really good perspective on the students in the system as a whole. I think what is key to pay attention to is that 74% of our students in the California Community College system are part-time or non-credit students. To me, that's huge. We also have 66% economically disadvantaged students, which is also, in my opinion, huge. And it's important because it affected our decisions as a department to use OER as well as HyFlex. And so you'll kind of see how that comes about. This was one of the other items that I thought was really important to share. This is also a statewide college survey that was done by the Chancellor's Office. And it shows the top reasons why students who were previously enrolled at the community college dropped out. 33% had to prioritize working. 30% had to prioritize mental health. I think that's a ginormous number. But we also have closer to the bottom, it's still 19% could not afford course materials, right? So we were seeing, you know, these types of issues showing up for years, even though this survey was taken in 2023. I don't think that this is new information. We knew this anecdotally in our programs before that. So taking a closer look at my program specifically, the Water Systems Technology program, our students, this is a snapshot from 21-22, which is the most recent data that I have access to in our system. And on the far right-hand side of the screen, we are a relatively small program. I don't know about each of you individually, how big or small your programs are, but we have an unduplicated head count for 21-22, which is actually smaller than some of our previous year numbers of 133 students. 84% were part-time students. That says a lot to me in terms of being able to service students. In terms of age, I think that's also possibly unique, but certainly unique here at our institution. The age breakdown of the students in this program is older, and you can see that between 20 and 34 is 60% essentially of our students. And then we have another 30% that are between 35 and 50. So our typical college age student that is coming to this campus directly from high school is not the primary student in this program. So I think that's important. We are also a Hispanic serving institution, an HSI, and that seems obvious or relevant based on the fact that 57% of the students in the program are Hispanic Latinx students. Again, that is a large part of the population at our institution. So now we kind of, I think, have a good idea of who our students are, right? Not only systemically in California, but within the program itself. So I'm going to spend a few minutes telling you a little bit about the program. We are a career technical education program. And many years ago, when I came to this campus as full-time faculty, I came from industry. I have a bachelor's and a master's in civil engineering, and I worked for approximately 15 years as an engineer before transitioning to teach full-time in fall of 2006. At that time, there were 3 adjuncts that were teaching in the water program. We were only offering night classes face-to-face, and the faculty member, the full-time faculty member that was overseeing the program was actually someone in our networking technology department, really nothing to do with water. We had no short-term classes, and we were using very expensive textbooks from the American Water Works Association, which is the national professional organization that relates to water. The books that AWWA provided or had available at that time were primarily reference materials. They were really not developed or written to be classroom instructional materials, and they were still expensive. On the bright side, we had really consistent enrollment in the program at that time. So fall of 2006 comes about, I come on board. My master's in civil engineering, I had an emphasis in water resources. I had worked for water districts in the past. I love water. I think it's an amazing career field. I think water in and of itself is an amazing thing. So I was very excited to say, hey, y'all, if you don't really want to hang on to that water program, I'm happy to take that on and manage it and work with it. And I'm qualified to teach in it. So I was teaching in it as well. And the network technology faculty was like, oh, finally, sure, have it. I don't want it. 2011, I revamped the program into what you're looking at right now. It is an AS degree program or a certificate program. You can do both. And really, it's designed to prepare students for careers as treatment, distribution, or wastewater operators. In the state of California, as with most states in the country, you need to pass some sort of exam, certification exam, license exam. Different states call it different things in order to be an operator. It is required that you be certified by the state to do so. So all of the courses in our program are really designed to help students prepare for the variety of certification exams that the state offers for that purpose. If you are taking the certificate, these 21 units are all that you need. If you are taking the associate's degree path, you of course need 60 units to reach an associate's degree, and additional water classes above the 21 units do count towards your electives, towards achieving that degree. The program is built so that everyone takes 5 core classes: an intro class, 2 classes in water mathematics, water supply, and water quality. And then students get to choose, do I want to look more specifically at treatment? Do I want to look more specifically at distribution? Or do I really want to focus in on wastewater? Many of our students do multiples. They'll do treatment and distribution, for example, as it makes them more well-rounded and gives them more job opportunities. For us, the California State Water Resources Control Board is the governing body over the state distribution, wastewater, and treatment certification licenses. And in each case, to be an operator in treatment, your levels of operator certification are T1 to T5, distribution D1 to D5, and wastewater grade 1 to grade 5. Each one of those levels has requirements for education or for work experience or a combination of both. Here in California, if you tested for a T1 or a D1, you simply need a high school diploma. But the content that is on these exams, if you just had a high school diploma, you may not really have the knowledge base you need, even at the level 1, to pass the exam. thus our courses, right, is why we exist. Again, to give you another sort of perspective on the program, as I said, it's relatively small. Our median class size is about 20. We are now offering 23 sections every year. That means that out of those 11 courses you saw on the previous slide, we are offering all 11 courses finally. It took years to get to that point. We are offering all 11 courses every semester, but we are only offering one section of each of the 11 every semester. We awarded 21 degrees in 2021 and 15 in 21-22, as well as a number of certificates. We do have some students that do transfer typically into environmental science type programs, but more often than not, they go directly to work as operators, system operators. Okay, so looking back again at our students and trying to picture 84% are part-time. That number has not changed over the years. The majority of our students have always been part-time. We are still online and night classes, although our classes have shifted into this HyFlex modality. We began that shift back in 2011. Again, we did all of this to start addressing the needs of the demographic of student that we were serving. Older adults, night school, because they're working during the day and they're only taking classes part-time. So in fall 2011, when we rolled out that new program schedule, the 5 core classes and then the 2 additional classes, that structure, I recognized that students were having a difficult time taking multiple classes. We run classes Monday through Thursday evening, but that doesn't mean they can come to school Monday through Thursday evening when they have a family, when they have other obligations, and when they're working all day. So we were looking for opportunities to help students progress through the program faster and still meet their other obligations. We looked at online learning as well, and we started working in that vein too, but many of our students were not comfortable at that time with 100% online learning. So I was trying to find some sort of mix. I was the only full-time faculty member for this program, but was also, and I say was because today is the first day we're on contract for fall of 23, and I have 5 new full-time faculty. I'm so excited, you have no idea. So for many, many years, since 2006, I have been a one-person department managing the land survey program, the water program, our construction program. We had a plumbing program and a manufacturing program that I also oversaw at times. I do have the construction program back again now. So it was really about me trying to figure out, working with our adjuncts, how we could create better access for our part-time evening working students. And we now had this new model in terms of the course and degree requirement structure. So one class at a time, we started adding in what I later learned was called HyFlex instruction. I found an individual out of Oklahoma who was actually doing a version of this, and he allowed us on a pilot basis to jump onto their server. Our IT department was not really keen on us doing this, but I was able to run it through their server in Oklahoma, and we piloted it in 2011. It went well. Students really enjoyed that option of being able to remotely come into class. And so we just continued to build from there. We started out with using WebEx as a product because at that time, Zoom was barely able to just do a video conference. It was not nearly as robust as it is now. And WebEx at the time was very robust. And there was a lot of functionality within the program. So to give you an idea of how this has benefited this program, right? So there's the benefit to students, but how it benefited the program. Between 2011-12, when we started building that sort of one class at a time approach, to 2019-20, we've seen an increase of 50% in our total headcount and an increase in our full-time equivalent student to 85%. So an increase of 85%. And we'll talk about that a little bit more shortly here as well. And I know y'all are OER people. I promise I'm getting there. I put this slide in so that it was sort of an explanation of how DCE defines HyFlex. It is defined differently at different institutions. There are HyFlex organizations. There's a gentleman, Brian Beatty, out of the Cal State system, who runs a HyFlex learning group that is with people across the country. But here at College of the Canyons, our academic senate finally decided to weigh in because, of course, COVID changed everything, right? I became really popular during COVID. I was one of the only departments who had been doing this sort of remote online instruction live. And suddenly that became the way to go during COVID. So our academic senate jumped in and created a policy on what HyFlex would be at COC. For us, it means remote synchronous instruction. So via Zoom, students join your live classroom. And, supplementing that or using our learning management system, which is Canvas. We are not allowed to offer completely asynchronous instruction through our HyFlex modality, which if you look up a traditional definition of HyFlex, that would be included. So the intent of HyFlex is that it is always the student's choice on how they wish to learn. And they may choose to come in person, they may choose to join via Zoom. And then that's our definition here. But the bigger definition, and that other colleges use as well, is that students may also just choose to complete their learning asynchronously online. Our college is huge on professional development. We want to make sure that we maintain academic and teaching standards throughout any modality that we have instruction. So again, Senate weighed in and said, these are the courses that anyone that teaches by HyFlex must take in order to teach in a HyFlex environment. We have to take our Intro to Canvas course with accessibility, and we have to take our Intro to Online Live, which is a 2-week course that includes some asynchronous instruction and some Zoom instruction. And then they spend an hour with someone in our IT folks to learn how to use the equipment in the classroom appropriately for this type of instruction. Once a faculty member has successfully completed these trainings, you are now eligible to teach in this format. My entire water program is set up to be either online courses or HyFlex courses or a hybrid where a portion of the course is online, a portion is face-to-face, but that face-to-face portion, students may still opt to join in remotely. Here's the cool part. Here's what we found to be benefits for our students. Doing this methodology created greater access for them. And I think that's why we see over the years that increase in full-time equivalent student numbers. Students went from being able to take one class a semester to being able to take multiple classes a semester because they didn't have to drive to campus 3 nights a week to take 3 classes. The other changes that we made is we began offering a number of our courses in an 8-week format versus a 16-week format. 5, 6, 7, 8 of the 11 courses are offered in an 8-week format right now, and we're looking to move that forward to almost all, if not all of our courses in an 8-week format now that starting today, I have a brand new full-time water faculty member. I could not be more excited. So going forward, we will be making some additional changes in that respect. It seems to, again, serve our students well. But access, fewer scheduling conflicts. When students have the opportunity to join via Zoom, but still have that interaction with their faculty directly and their peers directly in a live environment, it it works. It works for a lot of our demographic. And so we found that there were fewer scheduling conflicts because people could join when they were at a conference. People could join when their kid was sick, and again, then they could take more classes as well. There were no more logistical problems in terms of transportation. We had issues with some students who maybe rode the bus to campus and the night class ended up later than the last bus. That was problematic, things like that. Even for students who show up every single week, it does provide them flexibility when things happen. During the COVID years, there were times when, if a student got sick, they could still at least join their class remotely and not fall behind, even if they weren't allowed to be on campus. We found that in this format, in terms of more learning materials, we are now able to accommodate more diverse learning styles, because you have to make sure that things are loaded into Canvas so that your remote students can access them, as well as the students that are in person. So we're finding that we are generating content, instructional content, in more ways than we did in the past. And that only benefits students as well. We do record all of our sessions through Zoom, so that we found students like that. They go back and they don't listen to the 3 hours, of course, of class, but they'll go back in and they'll say, what was that sample problem we worked on in class again? Let me go back and review that. That wasn't an option before when we were strictly face-to-face, and it's not the same type of option even in a 100% online course. Certainly in 100% online, you can create those videos, but they're more structured than the recording from the live class. So having those recordings was of benefit to students as well, more than I had anticipated. Some of our students who English is their second language, recall I mentioned we're a Hispanic serving institution. I found that that was a benefit that I hadn't considered either. Then you see the OER materials, and we'll be jumping into the OER materials in just a minute, but that has been a tremendous addition to making HyFlex work and work well for students. And it's been, tremendous to our program. And we already covered the acceleration, where we have more students able to complete in a shorter period of time. This happens to be one of our land survey students. This is a really short little video on his comments on HyFlex. I did implement HyFlex across the programs as best I could that I oversaw. And so the survey worked out well too. I hope you can hear him.
Ryan. I live in Santa Cruz, California.
Can you all hear him?
And I've been a student with COC for the last 3 semesters now.
Oh, sorry. How did I pause him? There we
I
go.
think the HyFlex program is excellent for my situation. I live very far away from College of the Canyons, and it's allowed me to pursue a degree remotely. And at the same time, the evening classes allow me to work full-time as a surveyor. So it's been great for me.
So this was the common response we were getting from students, regardless of the discipline, right? I don't have to traverse the distance. I don't have to spend money to pay for gas. I don't have to pay for a babysitter if I'm running late from work, lots of reasons. So now let me talk a little bit about how we implemented the OER into the program. So as you recall, fall of 2011, we rolled out this new structure and began our HyFlex process. 2014 comes along. So a few years into it, we're finally getting our feet on the ground with it. We're finally able to get WebEx in place. Things are operating. My instructors are trained. Adjuncts are good with it. We're like, yay. And our Water 130 Waterworks mathematics class, an adjunct instructor who had been here many years before I was hired in 2006, he had written a book for us that was directed to our curriculum for the water math class. And we had been using it every semester, even though he no longer taught here. And the instructor that was teaching this class, our reprographics center, of course, would say every semester, hey, we need a release from the author that we're allowed to use this book and that we're allowed to copy it. Every semester, the gentleman was like, sure, no problem, until 2014. In 2014, this individual decided that he was going to publish the book himself and sell it. So all of a sudden, we no longer had a book. And we were like, oh, we didn't see this coming, and we didn't think about this at the time, and we didn't recognize how difficult this would be for us. And so this was the push for us to go into OER. The instructor and I sat down and said, we think we can do this. We need to do it for students. Let's just put it together. So we reached out to our online education office. I'm very fortunate here at College of the Canyon. Our online education folks are tremendous. The dean of that area is tremendous. He's involved internationally with the OER, has been for many years. So they were super supportive, and we're like, we can help you. So 2014-15, we jump into the Water 130 textbook and start this process. Well, the first thing we found is that water systems technology is a very niche topic. It's not like English, math, or history, where every community college or every college has these disciplines. So when we went out to look to see, well, what other OER resources are already out there that we could bring in and use, we discovered there weren't any. There was a complete lack of content available out there. I also reached out to American Waterworks Association. Not only are they a national organization, but there's a California, Nevada chapter. And I said, hey, you guys, we're going to look to do this. And at the time, the materials that they had, remember, we were using them, but they were very resource-based, not instructional. I said, what do you think? Do you want to work with us on this? Could we partner? And they laughed and hung up on me, basically. They said, we make money off these things. We have no interest in working with you, little podunk community college. We're not going to participate in any way. We're not even going to really give you our time of day. So I said, okay, let's just figure it out on our own. So working with our online ed office, we discovered there's no content. I reached out to my adjunct faculty, the one faculty member who was teaching the water math class at the time, Michael Alvord. He worked as an operations manager at our local water utility. He was on board. He was happy to help. He was teaching the class anyway. We tapped into some other industry experts. We tapped into our online ed office and staff, and we began this process. Over the years, by 2016-17, our online ed office was able to secure grant funding, and we were able to expedite the pace of getting materials developed for every course in our program. So success. 11 textbooks that are customized to our curriculum. I have found out that some of our other community colleges are using some of these textbooks. Yay! We also discovered how well this pairs with our HyFlex and online modalities. Students no longer had to go through the bookstore. Remote students no longer had to wait for books to be shipped. Our part-time students and our economically disadvantaged students who were waiting 3 or 4 weeks for their financial aid checks to come in, they weren't buying their books until 3 to 4 weeks into the semester. When you're running an 8-week class, that's a problem. 50% of the course, they don't have a book. So we discovered very quickly that pairing OER materials was a phenomenal way to help students and help our remote students as well. We do get students from diverse areas within the state. Many do not ever come to our campus, even though they get their degree from us or their certificate in water. So now they didn't have to worry about getting a book shipped to them either. So it was great. The other bonus we discovered is that because we're writing the materials ourselves and developing them in-house, we were able to do a lot more with culturally responsive teaching and with, equity and inclusion and diversity, accessibility and anti-racism within our books. A school out of Utah, I believe, did a study of open educational resources several years ago and found that one of our water books was one of the more accessible books that they had come across. And I, of course, hats off to our online ed office. They provide that support. So our faculty do the writing of the content, and the staff and folks in our online ed office do all of the actual publishing work. They help with editing, they help with generating materials, they help with accessibility, they help with formatting, they keep the master copies, so they help with updating editions. They determine when it's a new volume or when it's a new edition based on the work we do. So faculty really just have to focus in on the content, and that was really, really helpful. The idea that our books were available digital or printed, all of the PDFs are available in the Canvas shells for each course. Tacking on to our OER, we developed a template Canvas shell for each course so that the information was already integrated. So as we got new adjunct faculty, they didn't have to build from scratch. It created continuity for students. They kind of knew what each shell would look like as they progressed through the program. It was just a really good balance. And as I said, it allowed us to really focus in more on culturally responsive teaching and inclusion and equity. Our bookstore, in conjunction with our on-campus reprographics office, can order a printed spiral-bound copy of the book from reprographics, and students essentially pay cost for that. So most of our books range between $3 and $6 for a printed copy of the book if the students wish a printed copy, and they can purchase that directly through the bookstore. Additionally, our Associated Student Government Computer Lab will print 80 black and white copies per week for free and 50 color copies per week for free for students. If you're more remote, it's a little bit difficult because I think ASG says, yeah, we printed it, come and pick it up. But I think they may also offer a shipping option as well. So if that student really doesn't even want to pay the $3 to $6 to the bookstore, they can still get it printed for free if they wish to do that. And then I have, if this works, I have another little short video. Oh, really? Really? Now it's going to do this? All right, we'll skip that and I'll try to come back to that later. It's one of our water students speaking about her experiences with having OER materials. She was a double major between physics and she also took all the water classes. And she expressed that at one point in the physics program, it was a $300 textbook for one class. She went in with it with 3 other friends. So 4 of them shared the cost of one textbook and figured out ways to jostle the book around because they couldn't afford to buy a $300 textbook. She was floored to come into the water program and realize that all of her books were free. They were readily available to her the first day Canvas opens or the first day of class. Our college also has an OER website where they post the PDF to all of our books as well. So, it's just been a phenomenal success for us. And to show you a little bit of that data, remember that I mentioned in 2014-15 is when we started to really make the big push for the OER. And you can see that the success numbers, I'm sorry that these colors are so similar. This lighter blue color here at the bottom is our student success rates for our water students. And between 14-15 and 21-22, you can see that our success rate increased from 76% to 89%. I think that's phenomenal. I'm super pleased with those numbers. The line above is our student retention. I think we always had pretty good retention. This is not a general ed course. students are not taking water unless it's something they want to do or are interested in doing professionally. So we expect our retention to be higher because students come to us ahead of time with, this is what I'm going to do, right? So they're more interested and invested up front. But even so, we increased our retention from 88 to 95%. I attribute these numbers to that combination of going to a zero textbook cost program with OER across the board and having online and HyFlex options for students. It really sort of created the perfect opportunity for students to be able to go to school the way they need to and make sure it fits into their life. Oh, thank you, Sherry. That's really awesome. I can go back and show you all that later if we. Here's some of the challenges we've run into. As I mentioned, until today, I was a one-person department in terms of being the only full-time faculty member, and I oversaw multiple programs within the department as a whole. We've become a book publisher. I was 100% on board to this. The grants were fantastic to get everybody, you know, the industry experts and to get faculty to write, and the support from online ed is still phenomenal in terms of that formatting. But you finish the book and you're like, whew, I'm done. And then you realize 6, 9, 12 months later, oh, I need to update it. Oh, things have changed in industry. Technologies have changed. We need to include that in the textbook. I just did a rework this summer of the Waterworks mathematics book. And in rewriting parts of it, I was like, what was I thinking? This doesn't make any sense. Why did I put this in this order? You know, it clearly made sense at the time. And now it doesn't seem to make as much sense to me. So there are challenges with getting ongoing funding to support faculty in continuing this work and not having it be a one and done and then having it become outdated. There's also been a lot of questions about peer review of these materials. Because water is such a very niche discipline, out of 115 community colleges in the state of California, I'd say maybe 10 or 11 have water programs, and they're all very different. There's even fewer that have a full degree program. There's very few that have a full-time faculty. We are very blessed to have a full-time faculty dedicated to water. So this concept of peer review, well, who's going to do that? And how do we know what that looks like? And is it going to be paid for? Or are we relying on the generosity of industry partners to do that work? So that has been a challenge, actually. And one of the things I'm incorporating into the new version of all the textbooks is a page that allows people to send in comments to us. It's like it'll be a link, I think, to a Google form that people will be able to say, hey, I found an error on page 7, or why aren't you doing this? Or you might be missing that. And I think that'll be a great addition. That'll also help us track who's using the book. But I would say that peer review is an area that we could definitely improve, and we need to kind of figure out how best to do that. Faculty workload and content expertise is also a challenge. When you have one faculty member in the department who's full-time, you have 11 courses across treatment, across distribution, across wastewater. You're not always going to be the expert in every single one of those areas. So we do have to rely on folks out there in industry who have expertise on membrane technology, for example, and how to integrate that in a way that makes sense into the classroom. Again, the technologies in treatment are always changing. So the person who's teaching full-time, how are they getting that expertise when they're not currently working in the field? I mean, yes, we go to conferences. Yes, we talk with people. But really, to write a book, you need to kind of be the expert, right? Not just know a lot about it. So that has been a challenge, and that goes back to that ongoing funding. You know, you can only rely on people's generosity of their time for so long. one of the recent things that we've discovered here at our college is the integration of academic freedom with OER. Academic freedom here says, the way we've interpreted it, is that every individual faculty member gets to choose the materials they wish to use in their courses. This program has been entirely built and dedicated and predicated on these OER resources. However, if I brought in a new adjunct, that adjunct would have every right under academic freedom to say, I don't want to use that OER book. I want to use this book. I want to use this AWA book that's $200 for students to purchase. We would hope that instructor would not do that, but we don't have the right to tell that instructor that they cannot do that. However, the policy that has now been developed here at COC through our academic senate does say that departments may vote as a department on what materials will be used for classes. So this year, our department will be voting and will hopefully vote to maintain the use of our OER and our ZTC pathway across the water program. Personally, it would be really detrimental to us and our students if that were not the case. So we are looking to do that. Lastly is distribution of these materials. It's great that we're doing this for ourselves. It's great we're doing this for our students, but we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do we get other institutions or other individuals to use these materials, to be aware of these materials, because again, that's that sort of, it flows back into the peer review. If I can get some of these materials used as a resource at a water utility, maybe some of those individuals would actually send us feedback and say, hey, this chapter is great, but you might want to think about, right? But how do I do that? How do I go about figuring out how to do that and figure out what other colleges may or may not be using the materials? So that's a question we've had as well. But being a book publisher has definitely been a challenge that I hadn't considered back in 2014-15 when we started this whole process. I would do it again. It's really been tremendously beneficial for students. And let's be honest, what's beneficial for my students is beneficial for my program. The better students do in the program, the more they enjoy the program, the easier it is for them to attend. They tell their friends, they tell the people they work with. And then we get more students and our program becomes more successful. So it's really a wraparound benefit on both sides. I think I talked long enough. Do y'all have any questions? Is there anything that I didn't say or didn't add, or?
Hi, Regina. I'm curious about the response from other departments at your college. Are they more enthusiastic about OER or less enthusiastic, or is any other departments following suit?
Well, thank you guys so much. I'm reading the chat. As I mentioned, our college has always had a large OER support and sort of push. So at the same time that I was working on this, I know our sociology department is completely OER. Our ECE, our early childhood education, is going completely OER. I think we are now up to 80 some, 100 some OER books across disciplines, but water was the first career-based discipline, the first career tech discipline that jumped on the bandwagon and pushed all the way through to a ZTC. But no, we have a lot of other departments that use OER, and we have, I think, several other ZTC departments, but none of them are career-based or career education programs.
Okay, great, thank you. And in ZTC, just to remind folks up here in the Northwest, that's zero textbook cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, there's a lot of discussions happening here at the state level in California as to what really is zero cost, what really is low cost, what's the level for low cost? Does it include supplies? Does it only include books? Well, what if you're not using an actual book, but you're using sort of a conglomeration of materials? Does that count? So there's a lot of discussions around the definitions of these items. But essentially for us in this program, we have a book for every single class. Every single course is an OER book. So there is a zero textbook cost to students who pursue this program. And then we have enough general ed courses that support OER as well. So realistically, students can do a degree program with little to no textbook cost, and they can also do it remotely or online.
Oh,
So,
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Jaya. You're gonna have to unmute, I think. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Still on subject, but a little sideways. I'm curious about the technology you have in the classroom with regard to keeping these courses HyFlex. Are you just using Zoom only and then providing those lectures or whatever to the students? Or do you have, yes.
We do have some very specific technology in what we call our HyFlex classrooms.
Right.
More recently, and I love the newer stuff, because again, I've been doing this since 2011, and what we had in 2011 doesn't compare to what we have now. We now have like a new line tablet. It is very large, and you can write right on the tablet. So, and it functions as our computer screen, and it's connected to the projector. We also have like a large TV monitor. So we basically have two screens at the instructor desk, the projector, and then the TV monitor. And one screen is connected to the TV monitor, which is typically where we put this Zoom screen. And then the new line tablet is connected to the projector, and it projects your content. So what's beneficial about the tablet and it being able to be written on is that I can now face the students in the classroom while I'm facing my Zoom students, because they're seeing it through the camera, but I see all of them on my adjacent screen as well as my television screen. And I never have to turn my back to actually teach.
Right.
They've
right.
also now installed better microphones, like ceiling mounted microphones, high res microphones. And we have multiple speaker options within the classroom as well. And then, of course, we record everything. So students can interact with each other. I will often get students who show up in person who will sit in the classroom with their laptop open and join via Zoom, because now their whiteboard is in front of them on their desk.
Right.
So even though they're in the classroom, they're still connected that way and watching material come through that way, because they're not having to look to the front of the room to do that. So, yeah, the technology in the classroom is really important. The cameras, the high def cameras. I made sure that my classrooms we have multiple cameras in the room. Actually, we have a ceiling mount camera in the center, and it will follow you if you walk around. But I also prefer to have like a webcam mounted on top of that new line monitor, because I don't want students to see me as a little tiny person wandering the room. I
Right.
want them to see me like you're seeing me, right? Like
Right.
I'm talking to them directly. Just as my students in the classroom see me up close, I want my Zoom students to see me up close.
So the students, may I ask another question?
Of course, yes.
The students in the classroom can hear or interact with the students who are watching live online. And how is that communication between the students who are sitting in front of you and the students online? Is that like, what does that sound like?
So it depends. And it depends on how you set up your classroom. If the student joins on their, let's say their laptop or their phone, and they're in the classroom, they have to close off their audio. Otherwise you get the feedback because it's all in the same room.
Right, right.
But if you set up discussion boards or some sort of breakout room, you can always have that student join that way. Or you have your Zoom students join one discussion group and your in-person students join a face-to-face discussion group. But they can share comments through the chat, right? So
Right.
there's just lots of ways to do it depending on how your course is structured, depending on, in the water program, we rarely have students attend in person. We often have, and if we do, 2 people at most will show up in person. I taught the water math class last semester, and on a regular basis, I had 1 person show up, and it varied throughout. At the most I ever had, and I think it was twice very early on, I had 4 people show up in person. But majority of the
You're in
time,
the classroom.
1 person. Yes, I'm in the classroom. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I might follow up about some of that equipment because I'm trying to work that out in my classroom. So I have more interest, but I don't want to take up everyone's time here. So
No, that's fine. And I'm happy to answer your questions. I can get you information from our IT office in terms of what they've purchased for the classrooms, if you're interested.
yes,
My email was posted. I know I stopped.
I got it.
Okay, but I'm happy to help with that any way I can. I would.
Thank you.
I am a huge proponent of this.
Oh, she froze.
So.
Oh, there you are. Okay, you froze for a minute, but we know that you are. We got your vibe.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah, my vibe's a little hard to miss. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a lot.
No. Take it from one who knows. Okay, there you go. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks for your questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Regina. We really appreciate this. I know we have people in the room who are wanting to look at how to do some of this work at the departmental level, which is, so it's great having you here today. Thank you.
Thank you again so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This was absolutely lovely. So